Hello and welcome. I'm Peggy, and I hope you will stay with us because the program that we have today is serious, and we could save a life. We need to be aware of our circumstances, what's happening, and we think that in South Carolina and North Carolina and Georgia, we live in a wonderful part of the United States, which is true. We're not in a major New York or San Francisco, and we feel safe. But we need to be aware of the things that are happening around us. And I'm honored today to have some very special people here. Jack Logan is here. And Jack is the founder of Put Down the Guns Now, Young People. And I've come to know Jack and have great respect for you. And next to him is Tracy Cantrell.
Yes, ma'am.
Tracy is a very lovely mother, and you lost your son.
Yes, ma'am.
In a violent situation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And next to her is Pastor Calvin Murray, and he is the chaplain for Put Down the Guns Now, Young People. Now I've got everybody introduced, so let's talk about what matters. We have a problem right where we are. We think we're safe. We think we live in a nice area, and but there's violence all around us, and our children can be affected. So, Jack, where do you want to begin?
Well, first of all, Ms. Denny, our organization began in 2010, educating children and teens to stay away from gun violence. When we first started, gun violence among children and teens was not this bad.
No.
The last 5 months, Satan has just, right here in the state of South Carolina, has just taken control and have destroyed a lot of teenagers and destroyed a lot of families. And we must step up and allow authorities, I go to that a lot, to do his or her job to get those guns out of the hands of teenagers. We've got to get away from saying police is racial profiling our children. These kids have guns in their possession. Just like this lovely mother here today, she lost her son. I'm not pointing my finger at the police in those areas, but if we allow police, I understand the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, but in order for us to move forward and get the guns out of teenagers' hands, we must allow authorities to search teenagers, because Satan is out to destroy teenagers. Again, like Tracy sat here today, and many other mothers throughout the world who has lost children to gun violence by other children. And we must educate our children, and as well as the government must let parents be parents in their home, to search those children when they come in, to search those teenagers' cars, because too many teens have guns in cars, and too many teens are walking the streets with guns. And some of those teens are getting guns by auto breaking, house breaking, but the majority of those guns are being given to them by other adults.
Oh, really? Or they have guns in the home and they just find it and pick it up and go with it?
No, I mean from other adults in the street who exchange for dope for guns, that type of exchange. But no, I would hate to think that a parent would give their teenage a gun to leave home with it. Mm-hmm. I would hate, anyway, I haven't met a parent have ever told me they
would do that.
They're being given a gun by other adults who don't work, who's sitting around out to destroy teenagers. And then now there are some teens and children who will go mess with their parents' weapon. Yeah. They will do that.
And the parent may not even be aware of it.
But that's where we come in with the gun locks to offer that parent a gun, because that can happen. Just for example, if Mr. Murray had a son at home and we give him a gun lock, well, then if he had a teenage son, his son may take the gun. But if Mr. Murray got that key or have that combination, his son can never pull that trigger to go hurt someone else.
Okay.
And I encourage all parents to make sure that their guns are locked. And I say one thing to every teenager: just like Tracy Cantrell said here, as a man, it hurts me to say what I'm about to say, but once you take a life, those boys who did this to her and all these other parents who lose a child, they can't give that mother back another child. But that other mother can go to a local jail or a local prison and hug her son or daughter. And I'll say this to every one of them. If you decide to pick up a gun with malice, I'm personally going to make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison, because I don't want to have Tracy Cantrell seeing the boys or the men who cause her pain, any other mother, seeing them in Walmart or McDonald's. I don't know how that would make her feel or any other parent feel.
So your son how old was he?
He was 18.
He was 18.
Yes, ma'am.
And did he know the people that?
He actually did. They had a conflict between one another.
Oh.
And they just had a disagreement, and nobody thought that it would have escalated to something like that. And it did. He was out walking, going to the store, and he didn't come home.
And so he knew the person who shot him.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So it wasn't just a robbery?
It wasn't a random shooting. It wasn't just, it was something that was intentionally done. They saw him out, and they just felt that they had to do that. I don't know why, or, I mean, I'm assuming just a dispute, a conflict between one another.
And what happened to the person that shot him?
They're in jail right now.
Thank God.
Yes,
I hope they
ma'am.
stay there. And what Pastor Murray, do you want to add to this?
Well, first of all, I chatted with Sister Cantrell prior to the show being recorded here, and I'm impressed with her courage to come and to talk about the tragedy that has befallen her family. In chatting with her, she did say, and I think all of us should do this, is to pray for our children.
Yes.
Not just pray for our children, but pray for other children.
Yes.
That the enemy will not infiltrate their spirit and convince them to solve disputes with gun violence, knife violence, or anything else, because, as Brother Logan indicated a moment ago, once a life is taken, you cannot give that life back.
No.
And but the way the Lord works is sometimes He will allow tragedy to happen within a family so He can get the greater glory. And chatting with Sister Cantrell, I understand that she knows the Lord, and she trusts the Lord, and she understands that the Lord is using her to tell her story in order to prevent senseless tragedy from happening again.
This put down the guns now, young people. How long ago did you start this, and why?
It will be 7 years, November the 21st this year. The reason I started, I've stated so many times, and I had my best friend. He had a girlfriend in Spartanburg and a girlfriend in Greenville. And I went and picked him up, Trace and Mr. Murray. And there was two teenagers had been charged with murder in the city of Spartanburg. And his girlfriend in Spartanburg was friends to one of the mothers. And he was so hurt about those two teenagers, he asked me to start talking to kids about gun violence. And I looked at him and I said, I thought you was my best friend. That's because I've never picked up a gun. And I kept praying about it, praying about it. He lost his life 3 days after, March 26th of 2009 in a car accident. And it just troubled me every time I started paying attention to the newspaper and social media about teenagers throughout America being charged with gun possessions. And I was scared to start it, and I waited to God to choose me. And then I went to local McDonald's where you've met Rick way up in Senator Carr Alley, and I asked them, the first day, Miss Tracy, they rejected me. You've had the honor of meeting Rick. Then the next day I was standing in line getting my coffee, and the two of them committed, and along with former county councilwoman Lottie Gibson, who's dead and gone. And we began with a grassroots campaign and walking the streets here in the city of Greenville, passing out literature to educate kids to stay from gun violence, but doing the first 6 or 7 months in our walk, we got a call that a child had been killed in the city of Greenville by playing with a gun. And at that time, Chief Terry Wilfong was the chief of police, and she introduced us to gun locks. And because I didn't know what a gun lock was, and we began to distribute those gun locks.
And you still do that?
And we still do that.
So you have free gun locks?
Yes, we have free gun locks. And again, if those teenagers who took the life of Tracy Cantrell's son and all these other teenagers the last 6 weeks in the upstate of South Carolina, if those guns had been on lock, there's no way that teenager could have pulled that trigger. Her son would be still living here today. I don't know how those teens got those guns that did that to her, but they got them from somewhere. And Lancaster, Abbeville, just across America, the last 2 weeks, there's been 15 kids killed at graduation parties right here in America by people just coming through, just shooting right in Abbeville. Week before last, 2 young girls were shot. By the grace of God, they're walking again. There was a young Lander college student, a sophomore, Nigel Miller, crippled. He was run over by a car during that shooting. Up in Lancaster, Alan Moore, a teenager, a star basketball player for Lancaster High School, was going to graduate Tracy and Mr. Murray on May 23rd. The kid was gunned down when he walked out of a shooting basketball. Then Welford, I can't call my little kid's name out there, the little Hispanic boy was taken to an isolated area to be shot and gunned down there on Nazareth Road in Welford. That's very hurting and very troubling. And I don't know how people can just forget about it. That's why I appreciate people like Calvin Murray.
Yes.
And this loving mother who was strong enough over in Gaffney, South Carolina, to stand up and do that eulogy over her own son, and then to orchestrate that service there. And since then, she's been loyal to me, and I've never met another woman like her.
Now, Tracy, we have to go to a break, but I wanted to ask you, do you go out and speak to groups, and that's to try to spread the word about the violence that we're not even aware that it's here?
I haven't spoken groups, but I do speak to individuals and to people and to children that come along, you know, how a crime can be so horrific and affect their life, you know, and how it's affecting those children that's sitting in prison, and, you know, and they deserve a chance, you know, and I feel for those kids, and I still love those kids, and how a person can still make an impact on another one, whether it's positive or negative, you know. And
that's the thing. That's a very powerful statement, that you can make an impression, whether it's positive or negative.
Yes.
And we have too much negative.
yes.
And I do plan, I told her she's going to start going places with us, speaking, because there's so many mothers hurt, and we do need that woman to be able to relate, because we have a lot of little girls out here that's sitting in juvenile detention centers charged with murder for being in the place at the wrong time.
Yeah. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll come back, and we do have a phone number and a website, so stay with us.